Hello, welcome back. So in the last video tutorial, we wrote this code, okay, this method for adding tags to our database, okay. So if you remember in the last video, I think we wrote the code for inserting into our database, okay, the PHP code. So this is the API, simple API that we wrote. And in the last video tutorial, we wrote this method code, okay, to add the database, the tags into our database. So this time what we are going to do is we are going to make sure that when we press on the button, okay, here, we go to the page and then we can add information into our, the tags into our database. So if you remember, when you go into the home page, we commented this code, okay, we commented this code and then we added this method, which is the add tags. But because this method here was having a map already, we were able to post some data into the database. So when I check here, if you remember, we did something here, PHP to do tags. Okay, in the tags we were able to push that data awesome tags title. So if you check here, you can see that we have awesome tags title. But this time we want to make it a custom one where when we press on the button, we go to the task page, and then when we go to the task page, we enter the details there, and then we are able to push the that information into the database. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'll just uncomment this one again, and then this time I'm going to comment this one for the floating action button. Okay, so I'll bring the floating. Yeah, just forget about why the data disappears. Okay, I've explained this in the previous videos. So what we are going to do now is, now when we press on the plus button, it will take us to this place. Okay, so for now we want to enter the tax title. We also want to enter the description, and then when we press on this button here, okay, the check button here, we want the description and then the title to go into the database. So that's what we want to do now. So let's go into the tax page here. And then in the tax page, let's look at where we said enter tax title. Enter tax title. Okay. So when you look at it, you can see that in the we did it what a test form field here, and then we have another test form field which is for the what description. Okay. So I think these are the two test form field that we have, and then what we have here is what a list view, which is for the to dos. Okay, and then we have the last one here. Okay, so in actual sense, when we press the button, this button, we are supposed to push in the title with the description and then the to dos. Okay, but for now we are just going to push in what the title and then the description for the tags. We are not going to do for the to dos. Okay, then we will continue to do for the to dos later. So how are we going to do this? We know that we have the test form field here. We also know we have another test form field here for title and then description. When we do this, we can wrap this, okay, the column, because we have our test form field inside the column with the form widget, okay, so that we can submit. Now we do this and then we can come here, create a global key for our form. So global key here, and then we want the form, I think the form state, okay, and then we will say form key here, and we can go ahead with this global key thing again. Okay, so this is how we create our global key for our form here. Okay, I'll just leave some space here. Now when I come down here, I can put the key to the form. Okay, the reason why we need a key for the form is because we want to access this form anywhere we want. Okay, so we can do some simple validation. Okay, and then we can also check certain things. So I can come down here and then I'll say on save. Okay, this is when we submit the form. Okay, and then when we press the button to get the data from the form. Okay, so we can check the value. So on save, what we want to do is we want to save this into title, and then we want to save the other one into description. So let's quickly create some variables here. Um, tax, let's say tax details here, and then we can say string title, okay, and then string description, okay. And then let's go back to the yeah, where we have the unsave. So when the person press on the button, we just want to say title is equal to value dot trim, okay, just to remove extra spaces. The trim is just to remove extra spaces from the text that we receive. We can also do validate, or the validator. You can just do some simple validation, and then what we want to do is we want to check if the let me just, if the value, if value dot is empty, okay, if it's empty we want to return um let's say the title is required, something like this, okay. We want to raise some validation, okay. When you hover your mouse here, this is saying that we need to return what, we need a return type here, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say string error message, and then I'm going to put sorry, I'm going to put this there, okay, no there. And then if it is empty, I'm just going to return error message. Sorry, error. No, I'm not going to return error message here. Sorry. What I'm going to do is, if it is empty, I'm going to set the error message here, okay, to the title is required, something like this. Sorry, I forgot myself. And then here we will now return what, sorry, we now return the error message here, okay. So now we save, and then we can see that the blue line is gone. And then we can also do a similar thing for the description. So I think I'll copy the line of code, okay, and then do that for the description here, okay. So when I do that, this time I'll say the description is required, and I think what I'm going to do here is now description, not title, okay. So I think it's done. Okay, for now it's done. I have the validation and then the unsave on it. So I will come here, and then down there I'll define on submit method on submit. Okay, with the on submit here, I can now call the form. I can now use the form key. So form key dot is dot current state dot validate. Okay, so I first want to validate. So as I'm validating, I want to check if it is valid. Okay. If it is valid, then I want to save the data. So current state dot save. So when you call the dot save on the form key, okay, what happens is that it will now retrieve all the, I mean, the text inside the form fields, okay, like the description and then the title from the form fields, and then it will save it inside the variables that you assign to, okay, these variables, okay. Now quickly I'll just print the print, let's say the title here, and then I'll say title and description here, I'll say description, okay. So when I press on that button, I just want to check if it is working. So now let's look for this button at the up bar, okay, that's at the icon button here, and then we have check. So what I want to do is I want to call that on submit button, okay. So I'll say on submit here. I'm just calling that, and then I'll save it. So when I press on this button, I'm calling this, okay. And let's see what we get. Okay, let me just clear the console, and then I want to press on it and see. When I press on it, you can see that I'm getting the title is required and then the description is also required because of the validation. Now I want to enter something like um tax title, okay, and then I want another one say the tax description. So I have the task description here, and this time when I press this check button here, I can see that I have it in my console that the title is tax title and the description is the tax description. So that means this button is working. So now how do we send it to the to this, okay, to push it into the database? So that's what we are going to do now. So go back to the task page, okay. So down on submit, we know that we now have access to these variables. Now they are giving us data, okay. So we also have to call that what is it? We now have to call the add tags and then pass in the data to it. So I will make sure that it will accept, let's say it will accept a map, okay, and then I'll call the map dynamic. Dynamic here, and let's say my data to send. I'll just call it the same way, my data to send. And then this time we know that we are receiving it from the other side. So I'll just comment this and it should work the same way because now we are just passing. Yeah. So I'll go back to my tax page and here I'll create a new map called map. Let's say map here, string dynamic here. And then I'll say my data to send. Okay, you can call it any name that you want. I'm just naming it this way, and then I'll say title. I want the title. I'm not semicolon comma, and then description. I'll say description. Okay. So now we have this map here. Okay, but we still don't have access to the method. So how are we going to do that? So to do that, okay, we can't use the scope model descendant on a function or on a method. You can't do that. The scope model descendant can only work on a widget. So we can't even come and use scope model here. So how do we get access to our model? To do that, we know that the whole scaleful widget, okay, if you check, the whole scaleful widget is wrapped with what? The scope model descendant. So every widget or any widget inside the scaleful widget is what? Is having access to that um, model. Okay, so that means our icon button here, okay, the check icon button here has access to our model. So one thing that we can do is we can pass that model that add tags method here, okay, we can pass that method to the what, to the submit method here, okay. So I can use model dot add tags and then pass it as a function or as a method to this. So I can do it this way. I can come here, back here, and then declare a parameter here. Let's say function, my function add tags. Okay, I'm just naming it the same way, but it doesn't mean you should name it the same way. You can name it any name that you want. So add tags. Okay, you can name it add some tags. Okay, any name that you want. That's okay. So add tags, and now it means that this method will now look for, I mean, on the on submit will now look for what a function to be passed. So that means I can now, since I have access to the model, I can now say model dot add tags. Now this time you don't need the bracket. Okay, you need it to pass it like this. Okay, you don't need the bracket because if you use the bracket on it, that means you're calling the what, you're calling the method. But we don't want to call the method immediately. We just want to pass it to the on submit. And now since we have it, okay, we have access to that method, then we can now come here and call add tags, okay. And then add tags, we know that add tags will now accept what it will now accept what a map, so we can just pass in this to that map. to that method. So now we have that, and then we can comment this, and let's go back to the attacks. Okay, we can, I want to just print the print, let's say the data. Okay, and I'll say my data to send. I just want to see if it came. Okay, and also we have this thing here. Okay, so if it work, it will return a success message here. Okay, so I'll save it again, and let me just open my, I'll clear it. So we know we have task title and then task description as an input. So I'm going to press on the button again to see if it's going to push it into the database. And now you can see that I have access, I have success here, and then say adding task was successful, and then the data is a task title, description, and everything was working. So now let's check our database if it went into our database. So we can see that we don't have task title here and then the task description here. So when I press on it again, now I can see it there. So that means pushing it was successful. Okay. So now what again do we have to do? We have to work on the to-dos. Okay. But before we do that, there was something I think I mentioned in the I said we will do something, okay, in the previous videos. Okay. Now you know when I think when you come into the task, okay, and then you press on the button to submit the task, you know that this is going to load. Okay, it will take some time because of maybe the internet or something. It will take some time to load. Okay, so with that one we have to make sure that we check if the thing is loading. Okay, we have to make sure that we check if the thing is loading, whether some operation, I mean some function is going on at the background. Okay, so we will create a new variable here called is loading. Let's say bool is loading here, and I think we can put false here. Okay, because initially we are saying that nothing is loading. Okay, since we want access to that is loading here, we can also return it. Okay, so we can say bool get is loading. Okay, and then we can say return is loading, because we want access to this is loading method inside our pages. Okay, that's why we are returning it. Okay, so now as it's done, I can now come down here. So you remember that I spoke about I spoke about the, what's the name, the notifier listener. Okay, so when we know that when we press on this add tags, okay, then that means the system will start doing something. So that means something is going on. That means it's loading something. Okay, so then if it's loading, so when I press on this button, I want to say it's loading. Okay, it's loading is equal to true. But when I do this, I want the interface or the UI to get notified that something has happened, something has changed. Okay, a data has changed from false to what, true. So I want to notify the UI. So notify the listeners. Okay, so or any scope model descendant is a listener. Okay, so when I notify the listeners, any widget that has the scope model descendant will listen and then do and then rebuild based on the what, on the data that has changed. Okay, so I'll save it, and then now that's what we do. We notify the listeners, and then when we know that, how do we know that this has what, finished? Okay, this is only done completed after this. Okay, so it is when it is done, then we can say is loading is equal to false. Okay, and then we can say notify listeners. Okay, because when we are done loading, we also want to notify the listeners. That means this time it's not loading again because this has completed. Okay. But also when we get an error too, we want to notify the listeners that, oh, it's not loading again. There has been an error. So we will say loading is equal to false, and then we can say notify our listeners. Get my point here. So I will save this, and then this time we can use the is loading in our front page here. So we need an alert dialog, okay, and I think home page. We are in the home page. No, I want it in the tax page, okay. So now we need to create an alert dialog, okay. I'll quickly Google it and then copy the code because I don't want to be typing the code. So alert dialog Flutter. I don't want to enter the code there, and I'll just go into Stack Overflow. I think there will be code there. So yeah, I'm going to use something like this. So I have this show alert dialog here. Okay, and then there's one here. I just want this simple one here. Um, okay, so I'll just copy it. I'll just modify it the way I want. Okay, so I'll bring it here and I'll paste the code here. So I think I'm not having an error, so that's okay. I didn't want to type this whole thing. Okay, so I'll comment this code because I don't need the action button there. I'll take this one out, and then um okay, and then we also have the content will also be a widget. Okay, so I don't need a title. Okay, let me check something. Okay, I don't need a title. I also don't need the content, so I'll just remove title. Okay, I just don't need this one too. And show alert dialog is when we want to show the dialog. Okay, I'll cut this code for now. I think let me just leave this side for now. Contest, build contest, return alerts. Okay, yep. So the alert dialog, you know what, mostly I like doing it this way because that's why I'm getting confused here. Okay, so I'll save it and then I'll cut this line of code. Okay, so this is what I wanted. Yeah, so now I have this method here. So I'm just going to show you something. I'll just leave it this way as if, okay, let me just put something here and say loading. Okay, something like that. It's okay. So now I have this alert dialog. Okay, you know that this alert dialog, it will show them. So with this alert dialog, I will now come up here. Where do I press the button? Now this is where I press the button. So when I press the button, I call this, okay, I call this method here, but then I want to check if model dot is loading. Okay, if then something is loading, then I want to say show the alert dialog. Come here and then show alert dialog. Okay, so I'll call this method here, go up again, paste the method there, and then I have to pass in the context. So this is what I want to do. So I'm going to press this button again and see what will happen. You see, now I get the alert dialog showing there, but then it doesn't end, so we don't even know when the thing has finished loading. Okay, so if alert dialog model dot is loading, then do what? Show the dialog. Okay, so how do we know that this thing has what completed? How do we know that it has? I mean, where is it? Yeah, how do we know that this method has completed? Because we can't even um we can either pass in the model down here, okay, and then check if it is not loading, then we can close it. But then we can do something more specific here, okay. So now this time I'm going to change this into future. Okay, I'm going to change this to future, and then I want to change it to future bool. Okay, so I'm changing it to a future because something will go on, and then it will complete. Okay, and that's why I'm returning what a future. But why I'm also putting boolean here is because I want to return a true or false based on what has happened. So now we know that when it goes through this whole thing, okay, and then comes to this place, then that means the thing was successful. So I can just go ahead and say return future dot value, and then I want to put true here. So that means this was what successful. This is successfully done. And then I come here to, and then um I will say return, okay, future dot value dot false, because if this fails, then that means we know that the thing has failed. Okay, now I can come inside here, inside my task here, and I want to say I want to await for this. Okay, so I can put a sync here, and then now I want to await for the what, the response. I'll say final response. You should know that the response is the true or false. Okay, and then I say I want to await. So response here, and then I can await. So now this time I will say if the response is true, if the response is true, then I want to print this completed successfully, something like that. Else I will say this, else I will say print this failed, something like that. Okay. So this is not this does not refer to the let me come back. Okay. This return thing that we are doing here does not mean the success message that we receive from the API is different. Okay, we are returning the true or false based on the final operation here. Okay, the final function here. If everything went through um as as supposed. Okay, so for example, if even if we get a response that says that this was not successful, let's say an error response from the API, we don't care. We know that this thing has gone through and then it has been successful. Okay, the only time that we are returning false is maybe when something happens, maybe the URL is wrong or something. Okay, so you should know that this is different from the response that we get from the database. Okay, so we will work on the response later, and then we will come back to the tasks here. Okay, so so with the task here, task page here, so we want to check true or false if this one worked. So I'll come here, and then I'll clear this page again, and then this time I'm going to press on it again and see, and then it say it completed successfully. Now this is what I'm trying to explain to you. When you come here, okay, if I change something in the URL, if this is wrong, then I expect this thing to fail. Okay, that's why I'm saying that this is far, far different from the response that you get from the database. So I'll go back, try again, and then let's see what we get in the console. Okay, I'll press it again, and then we get an error here. Okay, we get an error here, but we are getting this completed successfully. It was supposed to fail. All right. Okay, I don't know why it's not failing, but I think one thing that we can know for sure why it is failing is quick. I think let me come back here. Okay, I'm making sure that's correct. I was supposed to get this completed this did not complete successfully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the internet on my laptop, okay, to make sure that this will fail. So now I have my internet turned off, and oh, this will also affect the thing. So let me turn it back on, and it has affected my screen here. So let me see. Okay. So do you know what? I'm just quickly going to turn it off and then turn it back on again. So quickly turn off and let's see. So now when I press on it, it should fail. Okay. And I'm not even getting any response here. All right, but I'm getting false here. Okay. So it failed. Okay. So I'll just go back and then quickly turn this thing on again. Yeah. So let me go back here. So that's how we use this, okay? But then the main reason why I wanted to okay, let me see something. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, it because I connected to the database again. I mean the internet again, it's submitted a thing again. Okay, that's cool. So now what I want to do here is I want to make sure the loading here, okay, I want to remove that dialog when it is done. So I can await here, and then if this is done, I want to pop it out. Navigate star dot of contest, okay, dot pop. Okay. So whether it was successful or not successful, we still want to remove that thing from there, that loading dialog from there. So I'll copy this and then I'll also paste this one here. So now let's try it again. I'm going to connect and see, and then it went off. Now you see it came and then it went. So let's try it again. I press on it, it came and then it went. So that means it was successful. So we also want to do one function that if this thing is successful, we want to go back to the next page. Okay. So you should know that this, I mean, we should go back to the previous page, which is the home page. So we know that this navigator will remove what the alert dialog. So that means if you want to go back to the previous page, okay, which is the home page, then we have to do what? We have to use pop. So I'll come here, copy this. If this is successful, save it. And now I'll press on it again. And then it takes me back to what? This. And then I think I'll just reload my app for now and see what happens. Okay. So you can see I have it added so many times here. So that's why, because I keep on pressing the thing here. So let me just go and then come in. I think come in here, and then I will delete all these things because it's too much here, and then I will delete them. Yes. So let's try again. Okay, let's try this thing again and see how this will work. So let me just quickly refresh the page and let's see. I'm refreshing the page, but I didn't see anything. Okay, I think so. Okay, it has deleted the other ones. So now I'll press the floating action button and I want to add something here. Say um an awesome tax, and then I want the description to be this is really really awesome. Okay, so now with this one I want to press this and then let's see how it went into the database. Let's see, we have it here, awesome tax, and then say this is really an awesome tax. Okay, so we have it here. Okay, we have it here. So now I think I will leave the video here, and then in the next video tutorial we will continue. Okay, so with that continuation we will come and do I think we will come and then add the to-dos into the database. Okay, and then we will work on more stuffs later. Okay, so I will see you in the next video tutorial.